Namaste. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you. My name is Timothy Halloran. I am an astrologer. You can purchase astrology readings from my website at the link below. Today is a special day, June 21st, 2017, the day of our summer solstice. And we'll be talking about a new moon in Cancer coming up this Friday, June 23rd. And so, as always, we'll be talking about these symbols and alignments and mechanisms as they take shape throughout time, this relationship between the Earth and the Sun and the meaning that these alignments and symbols mean. And then, of course, we'll become more specific and we'll talk about how this solstice and new moon can be unique and different from all other solstices and new moons. Because, of course, this is astrology and every time, every moment is truly unique. And so, the summer solstice is when the Earth is tilted on its northern hemisphere towards the Sun. So that way that invisible line, the Tropic of Cancer, is aligned with the Sun's most direct incoming rays. And so, of course, it is the relationship between the Earth and the Sun which determines the 12 zodiac signs. And at the exact moment in which the Tropic of Cancer is aligned with the Sun's incoming rays, the Sun moves into the sign of Cancer. And so today we have the Sun and Mercury combust, moving into the sign of Cancer. And this is our summer solstice. It is, in many respects, an ending and beginning of seasonal cycles in itself. And so the year can be broken into 4 seasons, and this is one of those pivotal points. A circle can be divided into a cross. And when we come to that point on the cross, it means there is a curving, there is a changing. We've moved so far in one direction and now there is a necessary redirecting that is going on. A fundamental changing of direction can always be a part of this solstice or equinox time of seasonal change. And so, endings and new beginnings correlate with this summer solstice. Now, I have heard this Gemini Cancer cusp, where the Sun is today, referred to sometimes as the cusp of magic, which is an interesting correlation. I'm not sure how much I agree with it. However, I can understand some basis for it. The Gemini Cancer cusp is one of emotional intelligence. And with this new moon being in the 2nd degree of Cancer this Friday, we will be discussing, as with all new moons in Cancer, there being an opportunity to sow a seed intention that allows us to understand how to properly nurture, hold space for, and take care of our own self, aka pay attention to our own nurturance needs. And so Gemini is the sign of left brain rationality and intelligence. Cancer is the sign of emotional feelings and our emotional core and center. And being on this cusp, there is an opportunity to understand intellectually our own empathetic needs. And with this new moon in Cancer, again, there's always an intention to sow a seed here to allow us to nurture and take care of ourselves, be centered with our family, and emotionally relate to others in an intimate and inwardly fulfilling type of way. Okay, so this is all summer solstices, all new moon in Cancers typically fall around this time of year and carry these similar themes. Now, I'm going to get something off of my plate here. The vast majority of astrology that you usually see put on blogs and YouTubes only focus on these generalities that are similar and the same every year and oftentimes don't get more specific than that, which is why, as I'm sure you are aware, 95% of popular astrology is general, typically inaccurate, and always kind of the same. And because this is unfortunately 95% of the astrology that's available, the majority of people assume that that's what astrology is, and then they assume that it's easy to become an astrologer, and then they're doing astrologer without actually knowing how to do astrology, When you know how to do astrology, you understand that each and every moment in time is completely unique and the themes will be different on every new moon in Cancer, on every summer solstice, etc. And so that's certainly what we're going to talk about today. I am also hosting a moon workshop at the end of this month where we'll be talking about the various techniques and tools to do this type of deeper assessment of astrology, because there are many different levels. There's not just what zodiac sign the moon's in, there's also what phase the moon's in, there's also what planetary aspect the moon is forming. And we'll be talking about these different dimensions, these different levels, and how to synthesize them together in the moon workshop on July 1st, and also how to reverse engineer astrology so you can learn astrology through what you are feeling and experiencing in your life. So, public service announcement over. Let's talk about how the themes of this time can be coming up that can make this intention of this new moon in Cancer and summer solstice initiation in terms of having an opportunity to intelligently, emotionally relate to ourselves and others somewhat challenging. And the themes that we'll talk about today are some of the most common themes that I talk about in my videos and in my individual client readings as well. And that's because we're dealing with the Cancer-Capricorn polarity. 2 weeks following this new moon in Cancer will be a full moon in Capricorn. 2 weeks from now, coming up the beginning of July, we'll have Mars in Cancer forming an opposition to Pluto in Capricorn. These these Cancer-Capricorn polarity themes are some of the deepest themes that we have all been the most afflicted and wounded by in a global cultural perspective and way. And the reason this is because Cancer, the way I see it, is the most needed and the most missing medicine of our day and age, which is the wisdom of the mother, the family, the tribe, the home, and how to emotionally relate to ourselves inwardly in order to create safe space to go at our own pace and process our own feelings in a way which allows us to feel truly safe. This type of emotional safety, the wisdom of nurturance, which ideally the mother is supposed to give to the child, and yet in today's day and age, where this medicine is most missing, it's very rare that we should receive this from our mother or anybody at all in this world. And that's because we live in a world that has been in a patriarchal, distortion, unbalanced situation for thousands and thousands of years, that have disbalanced the polarity of Cancer and Capricorn, which is fundamentally a security polarity, to be very skewed towards Capricorn physical security. It's been a dog-eat-dog fight to survive for thousands of years. We've had to set aside our own emotional comforts and needs of well-being in order to work, in order to protect ourselves, in order to survive long, cold, bitter winters. And in many respects, we still live in a winter wonderland type of world that strongly encourages us to work in order to make money, in order to pay the bills, in order to survive. And our cultures encourage mass production on the littlest amount of time, flexibility, and space for emotional processing and an intimate connecting with others as possible. And so, going at our own pace and having time to emotionally process and feeling out what we are doing in life is considered weakness by our world. And those souls who have strong Cancer signatures often receive this prejudice from the world, that they are weak, that they're overly sensitive, that they are lazy and not working enough, because Cancer signature people are deeply emotionally sensitive. And so we have this new moon in Cancer, and the sun just moving into Cancer today that is initiating and opening this more emotionally sensitive time. And our emotions change quickly. The moon moves the fastest, rotating around the Earth. And this is our feelings. They're like the ocean, the tides, ebbing and flowing, changing all willy-nilly. And we are more at the whim of this sensitivity this next month. And that can be difficult when it comes to our 9-to-5 job, the expectations, obligations of other, our relationships, and the demands of the other, and how difficult it can be in today's day and age to create this space for processing. And yet at this time it's extremely important that we do, because there's a number of planetary aspects and alignments that can make it challenging, and yet there is this fundamental rebooting that's been happening this last month and really continues this next month, as we just had Jupiter station direct several weeks ago. We just had Neptune station retrograde last Friday, June 16th, and then coming up on July 1st, that's a Saturday, Chiron is stationing retrograde. So we have Jupiter, Neptune, and Chiron station not moving right now. And when this is going on, this creates a very, very deep, and I would say existential murkiness. Searching, things are changing. When planets change direction, there's sort of a recalculating our route and thinking things over. Jupiter turning direct is like our own philosophy and truth is rebooting, so we can connect with others in a way that allows us to share what we truly love and value in our hearts. Neptune is stationing retrograde, which can create this murkiness in terms of what is our beliefs, what is our ideals. And Jupiter and Neptune are forming a 150-degree aspect quincunx to one another last month and this next month, which makes this murkiness and this uncertainty and this directionlessness all the more murky and uncertain and directionless. There's like this incubation going within in a very deep existential way that is going on right now. And it's not all fun and games. A lot of this week's transits are going into the past, reflecting on childhood. We see asteroid Ceres is forming an opposition to Saturn just a few days after this new moon in Cancer on the 25th. And Ceres is the mother asteroid. She is a perfectly spherical minor planet floating out there in the asteroid belt, and I correlate her to the zodiac sign of Cancer. She has to do with nourishment, nurturance, our capability to feel good and nurture ourselves in astrology and in the birth chart. And she can also have a lot to do with childhood nostalgia and memories. Ceres is in Gemini opposing Saturn right now, which means that it can be considerably difficult for us to have our nurturance needs met, aside from the fact that we have this new moon in Cancer intention to do so, to get deeper into taking better care of ourselves is the intention of this new moon. The Ceres-Saturn opposition is making this difficult. So the common thread here is we may be feeling victimized. We may feel a victim of circumstance. Either we have taken on too much or we don't have enough to give. Regardless, the common thread here is taking us into these issues so that way we have the opportunity to better balance and structure our own give and take of energy. And of course, this is how we move from the victim to the pioneer, is an understanding that adjustments and making many mistakes is the opportunity to learn and grow rather than being some form of simple punishment. The other big aspect going on this week is the Sun is square to Chiron. This was exact Monday, June 19th, Sun square to Chiron. But the Sun is still square to Chiron, even though the Sun is moved into Cancer. And this new moon in a couple days will also be square to Chiron, which is turning retrograde. And when Chiron turns retrograde, we go very, very deep inside of ourselves, looking at our own past patterns of woundedness. We can be looking at past patterns that may have began early on in our life during childhood, which is common when these wounds become initiated because our early childhood situations, oftentimes, mostly, reflect our past life themes. So that way we have an opportunity to sort of begin where we last left off. But yes, we're bringing in wounds from past lives. All of us are, in this patriarchal day and age, coming out of this world of dog eat dog, fight to survive. It's all been about physical security, and there's been hardly any room or space for emotional security, family bonding, or bonding with the mother. The mother and the woman have been slandered and put down and disregarded as weaker and lesser important for thousands and thousands of years. We have lost the connection to what family truly means, what tribe truly feels like. 8,000 BC, we lived in a matriarchal situation where the belief is there wasn't even nuclear families. Children were raised communally, and there was a very deep sense of emotional, intimate connection to one another as human beings and a sense of family and tribe. We are all brothers and sisters. We can trust one another. We can work together. There are no enemies out there because we are all part of the same family, is this long, long forgotten truth. And so yes, we have all experienced woundedness and pain in this life and others. I can assume that is the case for all of us. And Chiron is the planet that takes us into our own wounds, where we can really see it. And asteroid Pallas Athena being joined with Uranus these weeks is also this realizations and eureka moments and illuminations that can suddenly pop up that is allowing us to discover who we truly are. And I'm going to say that's what this new moon is really about. The new moon in Cancer is initiating a month period of self-reflection. Cancer is our emotional core. In evolutionary astrology, the moon in Cancer is referred to as our ego. And ego is not a bad or dirty word. Ego is simply the self-identity that we have formed coming out of the patterns of the past. AKA, it is the point of reference which we are most related to. It's relatable. It's known. Our moon is our comfort zone. It's where we're familiar. It's what we've mastered. This is what Cancer is. It's our inner emotional mastery. And this new moon is square to Chiron, which says that we are reflecting on our story. We're reflecting on our past. We're reflecting on our childhood wounds in order to see our deeper story. And it is important that we go there, that we do the self-reflection, even though it's easier said than done. These can be frustrating weeks. The Sun square Chiron, New Moon square Chiron can make us feel lethargic, or hurt, or empty of energy. Mars in Cancer forming in opposition to Pluto these next several weeks can carry that frustration of, I am drained, I want to have time for myself, I want to have time for relaxing, and yet the world, the partner, the job, the duties are not allowing me to give me the time to fill up my own glass. And so here's the challenge, easier said than done and quite paradoxical in itself. We have the opportunity with this new moon to sow seeds that are allowing us to take better care of ourselves, nurture and pamper ourselves more, and be more productive outwardly, more confident outwardly, more self-centered in a good embodied way, more solidly simultaneously. And so we have the opportunity with this new moon square to Chiron. What's the good part of Chiron? Chiron is a mixed bag. People who say Chiron's all bad don't know Chiron. People who say Chiron's all good don't know Chiron. Chiron is not a light or shallow planet. It's very deep and meaningful and profound. Chiron is profound. Why? Because Chiron is our wound. What takes us into our past patterns of redundant woundedness or being abandoned or being misunderstood, etc. And yet in that wound is our initiation into the healing journey. I was hurt in the past and I had this taken away and I was restricted or limited to this box. And then coping mechanisms forms, addictions forms to cover up the pain, so on and so forth. This all becomes our story. And this is what life is all about. It's about us recognizing and committing to our story, even if the story is one of living on a planet that has come so many thousands of years away from itself. We have lost ourselves. We've been hurt by losing ourselves. But by admitting that and committing to the journey of reconnecting to ourselves, by looking into the past, by going into the shadow, by going into our wounds, by going into our unconscious dynamics, we have the opportunities to make discoveries, realizations, tools, medicines, techniques come out of our own journey of healing, which initiates us into being a healer of others. This is what life is all about. Life is about the healing journey. I personally do not believe in a spirituality which is separate from the healing journey. It doesn't matter what religion, what your meditation practices are, so on and so forth. None of that matters if it is separate or disconnected from your own personal journey of healing your own personal wounds. Going to church every day is really wonderful, and having groups to connect to, New Age circles to connect to, learning astrology and these things, wonderful tools and techniques. But if we are not applying them to our own unique and individual story of woundedness in order to heal our own unique story of past affliction, then it's all useless. Every one of us has been afflicted differently in different ways. And in those ways we have been afflicted, that is our initiation into being healers in that unique and individual way. You can't be a pioneer by joining a club. You can't actually help people just by parroting what others are already doing. Real healers are souls that have been really wounded themselves and committed to their healing journey, so that way they could be initiated into being a healer of others. I have never once met any healer, inspiration, teacher, or saint who have not been significantly wounded themselves and went on that initiation journey. I have never met a true spiritual teacher who said, yeah, I was fine, I'm unafflicted, I learned this quick cheat sheet, and now I never feel bad, I am enlightened, I am ascended. I've never met a real teacher or spiritual practitioner that had those beliefs. It is humbling to have our own story going into the past that is one that can be painful. And yet it is that pain which initiates us into the total beauty of being a human being who has the capability to actually serve, uplift, heal, and inspire other souls. So this new moon in Cancer is about self-reflection. It's about coming into our ego, our little me story that has formed from the patterns of the past. So that way, through self-reflection, we have the opportunity to better embrace these stories. Embrace the pain. Embrace what is not fun in life. If you don't feel good, embrace it. Because through embracing whatever it is that you are feeling, you are allowing yourself to process. And it is important that we initiate this endeavor because the world and other authorities will never give us permission to do it. You've got to be productive. You got to work 9 to 5. There's no time for you to feel uncomfortable feelings. And besides, do you really want to feel them? Most of us are living a life and a journey of covering up, sweeping under the rug, distracting ourselves, and remaining in denial. That is the life for the majority of souls on this planet, which are therefore incapable of helping anybody because they can't help themselves. We have to commit ourselves to this journey of aligning with work and truths that allows us to serve our deeper meaning and needs. And so this is Neptune turning retrograde, Chiron turning retrograde. There is an unwinding and a getting deeper into the essence of who we are, and an opportunity for us to restructure our life in order to get into who we truly are. And this is happening through an evolutionary mechanism of frustration. Frustration. We can be experiencing some frustration these weeks. We can be frustrated at the world, frustrated at other people, frustrated at our job and the expectations and obligations, the bills that need to get paid, our landlord, the people who have afflicted us in the past. And they're all oblivious. They're all oblivious of their own pain. They're all oblivious of their own afflictions, and they're all stuck in their own shit, and they're in denial of it. Yeah, this can be frustrating. And there's a lot of aspects going on these weeks that can also be using the evolutionary mechanism of relationship to bring these dynamics to the forefront, to work these things out. How can we practically implement more time for ourselves and time for the other? And so, lo and behold, on the day of this new moon, actually the day after to be exact, asteroid Juno in Capricorn is opposite to Mars in Cancer. Again, this Capricorn-Cancer polarity. Physical outward security versus internal emotional security. How are we going to get both? And the seesaw swings one way and the next. We go from lethargy and being stuck in our feelings to being overactive and suppressing our feelings. How are we going to move these feelings through us so we can stay active and at the same time remain truly authentic to what makes us feel inwardly fulfilled? Well, Juno in Capricorn says, let's make relationships work. Let's have a schedule. Let's have a routine. Let's be forming new traditions and new rituals together, is asteroid Juno being retrograde. Opportunity for us to form these structures. Let's commit. Let's form these foundations. Let's form these structures. Aha, but Mars opposite in Cancer says, yeah, but I don't feel like doing that today. And I don't have the energy for that today. And I am too drained and too exhausted and too bitter and pissed off to be able to offer anything to you right now. And this is a dynamic that we're working. It can bring up self-autonomy versus committance. How are we going to, resolve this conflict is a creative tension. How are you going to create rituals for yourself and rituals together? These are the themes that I'm always talking about in my readings and these videos because they're all pervasive. How do we get simultaneous security and independence in relationship? How do we get physical and emotional security in relationship? Well, these are the kinks that are being exposed and we're looking at, so that way we can work these things out. And we do have some transiting yods to make this tension all the more frictionous and intense. And, big changes and big discoveries and realizations and readjustments can happen and are really necessary right now. But yes, it does require readjustments, and there can be lots of back and forth. And again, this frustration can be like, I'm not satisfied, I'm not satisfied, I'm not satisfied, I'm not satisfied. And we're using that dissatisfaction to propel us forward into these creative solutions that we can be discovering. And much of this is coming from this deeper incubation, going deep, deep within. We have had a transiting yod with Jupiter on the apex. Neptune forming a quincunx on one side of Jupiter, and Venus in Taurus forming another quincunx on the other side. This deep, scrutinizing, chiseling over is taking us deep last week and the next several days into really reformulating what do we value. And Venus has been transiting over asteroid Lilith in Taurus. Let's get back to nature. Let's get into our bodies. Let's get into our senses. Let's slow down so we can get in tune with our heart, so we can remember what we value and cherish. And so this reformulating of our philosophy, our truth, our beliefs, has been chiseling on a very deep, again, existential level. And then these next couple weeks, Venus is going to form a quincunx with Saturn in Sagittarius. And again, there's this dynamic between doing what we love that feels good, that feels comfortable, and is it working in the world? How are we restructuring our own foundation? There's opportunities to restructure our work, our orientation to other, and the group. So again, we can come deeper into what we value and what we cherish. And everything that's on, in the tumbler, this deep existential washing machine and incubator, is our deep philosophy, our truth, our heart, that is taking us into our story, into our wounds, how we have been afflicted. And it is an unwinding, Neptune retrograde, unwinding process. Neptune is what takes us into our essence, Our world, Saturn, tradition, culture, expectation is what causes us to identify with specific roles that may not be who we actually are. Oh, I thought that I was this diploma, or this relationship, or this career, or this job, or this title. And Chiron, Neptune retrograde can be unwinding all of these things. I thought I was this job and I'm not. It goes deeper. I thought I was this relationship and I'm not. It goes deeper. It goes into a journey of self-exploration and self-healing, because the healing journey and the spiritual journey are one and the same. As you commit to investigating your own unconsciousness and your own story of past woundedness by creating patterns that allows you safe space to emotionally process, you will paradoxically become stronger, be more invigorated, have a deeper sense of purpose which inspires you, and then you can go out there into the world, commit more, do more, love more, work more. We're trying to do this in our earthly roles, in our jobs, and in our relationships right now. How are we going to create this space for self and other? And again, it is all about looking into the past in many respects. It's not bad to look into the past. Realizations happen when we go into the past that allows us to know who we are better than we did before, through coming into our essence and our story. Even the negative things that happen to us become a part of our story that inevitably and eventually inspire us to be the change that we want to see in the world. This Saturn Chiron transit that's going on all this year is really not fun. It's a deep, hard-working, really powerful, healing rite of passage. And as I've been saying all year, it's about taking what you don't like that you see in the world and letting that inspire you to be something different. This is how our journey of investigating our woundedness becomes the blessing of propelling us into being teachers and healers of totally new paradigms that are introducing realities better, more emotionally fulfilling, and physically secure than what we've been given in the past. And so, in this endeavor, I'm absolutely wishing you all the best. And I should be talking to you in another 2 weeks when Venus moves into Gemini and Mercury moves into Leo. I'm very happy once again to announce that we're doing a moon workshop on July 1st. So before July 1st, sign up for that moon workshop if you are interested. Spaces are limited. We're learning about the different facets of how to do accurate astrology readings looking at the moon, as well as how to allow our feelings of the moon to inform of what's going on in the astrology through reverse engineering. I'm also happy to say that I'm doing readings again, and that I have a store that's coming up. This moon workshop will eventually be in the store. It will be recorded for those of you that cannot attend in person. And so I look forward to connecting to those of you who will be there, and otherwise it's always a pleasure to be connecting with like minds and to talk about this stuff. So thank you for the opportunity, and until next time, I wish you absolutely all the best. Take care.